Good afternoon, morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Metaverse Nomads podcast, where we talk about the play-to-earn games that we are interested in. Collectively, the Metaverse Nomads lead a gaming guild called Rome, and primarily we're involved in Star Atlas at this time, but we are keeping our eyes and our fingers to the pulse of other games in the space. Joining me today are my fellow nomads from around the world. Jesse, how are you doing today?
I am well, man. It's been interesting. After 2 years here in Amsterdam, the place is actually back to life. It feels like it's strange to say, but it's amazing how a war can cancel COVID so quickly. But yes, things are normal here, and it's good to be here on the show with you guys.
Awesome. And to that end, I am in 100% agreement with you. I hope I can get traveling abroad sooner than later. But, the world is what it is right now. Ray, how are you doing with that green screen there?
It's not a green screen. I'm in Puerto Rico and in San Juan, the city of San Juan. And it's vacation time here. But it's also a potential place that I'll be living after I get my all ducks in a row. So, yeah, I'm here for a week and then I'll be back in the States. But it's been a great experience so far.
We were hoping you'd have your hair free and blowing in the wind.
All right, I'll do it.
Oh, here we go.
I'll do it right now.
Alpha.
Here it goes. Look out. Oh, yeah.
I'm a luscious stallion.
I think we need that recorded and put to theme music.
Right.
Let it blow in the wind.
Beginning of our intro.
That's it.
Do a couple of backflips.
That's funny. Fancy, how are you doing today, my friend?
Doing good. Yeah, glad to be here another week. Not doing as well as Ray, though. Yeah. Looks great over there.
Yeah, I don't think any of us are doing as well as Ray is right now.
And then I was mentioning earlier on the back end that, my goal personally was to increase the income streams over the course of 10 years as I was employed so I could retire and not all my time would be consumed by work. So, whether it was through real estate with how I started or dividend paying stocks, or then it was crypto, it just came sooner than later. But if you have that plan where you just have more income streams that you could pay for the cost of your life for what it is, then you'll be able to be a digital nomad. And it just, like I said, came sooner, and I'm humbled by the experience of it all, but I busted my ass to be here. So this is the reality of the manifestation of all the hard work and years. So I'm proud of it.
As you should be.
Yeah, I agree. And I think we just saw Ray plant the seed of his new career as a motivational crypto speaker.
That's it.
One of the cards in my stack.
Very good. All right. Well, I am Banjo Samurai. Collectively, like I said, we are the council of the Gaming Guild Rome, and we're here today to talk about a number of different things in the play-to-earn space. So, Fancy, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, so it was a decent week in Star Atlas. Not too much going on. There wasn't a roadmap report, which got a bit of pushback, but things are being pushed along slowly. 2 more ships came out, one large and one small, which was extra small, and there's quite a lot of appetite for the new smaller ones. Did you guys get any?
I did. I got a Lobi. I've been eyeballing that car since it first got released as an image. And maybe we can have a larger discussion around buying ships going forward. But I thought it was pretty cool, and it wasn't that expensive, so I bought it for the looks.
Yeah, and it does look great. We did have that one image of it for almost 2 months now, and I've been eyeballing that. I'm glad to have some more eye candy.
And just the size of it. I mean, when you look at it, the dimensions of it, you look at it and think, okay, that's the size of a normal car, but the thing's actually really big.
And it's beautiful. It reminds me of how I appreciated Hot Wheels when I was a kid. Before the show, I was talking to Fancy about the concept for me being old enough now to remember the transition of cars back when cars had the lap seat belt. They didn't have anti-lock brakes. The shocks weren't all that great. And so this car reminds me of like a throwback way back in those days where you felt the road because of the car.
Fancy, before you get into that, can you go to the original picture you put up? I want to call out something, and maybe I'm just seeing something. Does that 8 remind you guys of anything?
Snooker ball.
It was Herbie the Love Bug number 8 with the round 8 like that.
I think it was. Was it? Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's a callback to Herbie the Love Bug.
Yeah, but I agree with Jess. I definitely get those vibes. My father had a Cadillac. I forget the model, but it was the longest Cadillac in size, and it looked just like it almost.
Herbie was 53, so it wasn't an 8. But yeah, the number on the side though does remind me of Herbie as well.
Mm-hmm. It reminds me of that Johnny Cash song where he builds like he's a mechanic for the dealership, and he steals a piece of the car every day until he builds himself a car that's a monstrosity. That's kind of what I see here. It looks like it's just cobbled together. I mean, it's Spimble, so they're taking whatever they can get.
That or a moonshine runner.
Yeah. Hey.
Yeah, it is a
like
transport. That idea. I do like the size of them boosters on the back as well. The interior is really quite exceptional as well. Quite fun to be inside of that in VR.
Yeah. It looks like this is the engine, the hood, and the engine. It's kind of like this is the car version of the bike that is just one big ass engine.
Yeah, got a ton of them here. I like all of the different colors as well.
I think this is one of the only ships that we've seen this many skins on, this many different types of skins on. So
it does seem like they've spent time allowing people to customize it down the line, and some of it has that 1950s throwback look.
Well,
go ahead, Jesse.
Oh no, hold on. Go back on that one image there from it. There's something strange there. So we see gas, clutch, brake. If you're going to have a clutch, where's the stick shift?
That's a good point.
It's
obviously not as Maybe those are the rudders. Maybe that's your left and your right and your rear end, right?
Maybe that's it.
Yeah. I don't think they thought about that. Well, maybe they did. Maybe if Chipto's in the audience, he can talk about the design and is it tied to a specific mechanism for flight? Yeah. How about the other one? Did you guys, anyone buy the other one? Do you have pictures of that, Fancy? The Arc?
Yeah, the Rainbow Arc, the large freighter, I believe.
I'll be honest.
I haven't yet, but it's on my list.
And I loved the thimble we just saw. But if I'm being completely transparent and honest, I don't feel an urgency right now. Mm-hmm. The supply is there. And the market being what it is, I don't feel a reason that I have to run out tomorrow and buy one of these ships. I feel pretty confident that I'm going to get a good deal on this ship a week, 2 weeks, a month from now. I mean, that's just the reality of the market and the project right now. So I love these ships and I plan on having them, but I just don't feel this urgency. I'm not FOMOing to go and grab one.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. I have the ships that I really wanted, and now I'm going to be a bit more selective. It seems like all the ships are available, and we know the market's taking a turn that's impacting everything. So there's, some good savings on some assets right now. But this ship in general, go ahead, Fancy.
There is quite a lot going in favor of this ship. As I'm sure you was about to say, it was Chipto's favorite, he said last week. And this image alone might explain it. It's all of the panels from the vehicle shooting off to protect the cargo.
I like this concept, and when I saw this, it kind of reminded me that there is the potential for this ship, and especially when we see this here, because we see light bleeding out from it. We see all of these plates, and so potentially, maybe there is an intelligence to this ship that you could change its structure. Maybe if you want to go fast, you could make it more sleek. You want to defend yourself, you can redirect a bunch of plating to whatever side needs that protection. So it just seems like a ship that could transform into whatever form factor you needed depending upon the task, which I think would be really cool.
Yeah, and one of those things, as we see in this picture, it could be the entire bottom of the floor just coming down and letting all the cargo be taken off by just a simple land vehicle. That could be extremely efficient. And in this next picture, you can see it's just one thing going down. but in this one, it's practically like the entire length of the ship having being exposed. Looks like.
But go back to that last image. Same thing. We see the internal structure of this ship on the walls on the side to also be this fitting of these plates. So it really seems like this ship could transform and shapeshift into whatever you might need it to be.
Yeah. I hope we see this technology applied to other ships in this line, right? Because you could do a lot of cool things with a fighter or, different purposes of ships.
Yeah, and it does seem like there's multiple pictures where you see them floating around on the panels.
That's awesome.
The elevator system in the ship, it just seems to be like a cavity in the wall where you can slip through with these panels. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's interesting about this ship is it feels like it could be overpowered if it's built a certain way, right? I mean, if you have something where plates are shooting off the side of the ship to protect you, it feels like an extra level of hull reinforcement.
Yeah, and it was more expensive than we were expecting from the GAL. This was 12,705.
Yeah.
And like the lowest large, where was it?
And it's 130 meters in length. Yeah, that's kind of pricey for where that falls into.
I was expecting more supply on this for sure. 820. It's not that many.
Yeah, that isn't many. How did it sell out? I mean, where's it sitting at now?
So there's about 500 and 600 in Atlas, and about 750.
And this has been on sale for how long now? When did this go on sale?
A couple days.
Yeah, a couple days.
Yeah. That's actually kind of telling.
It's telling of the market. It's telling of people just kind of saying, okay, let's we're going to sit back here a little bit. And that's, again, I think that kind of illustrates why I don't feel like a sense of urgency that I got to go out and get these, as were the initial sense of the project, as projects do. People FOMO in the beginning. To the question stands now, and this is a question on my mind. It's and it may feel like it leans towards FUD. It doesn't. But my question to Star Atlas is, if you have a situation now where the market is down and you have a community that is demonstrating saturation, why would you be in a hurry to release so many ships? And I emphasize this by going back to our interview with Michael Wagner, where he shared that they currently have more resources than they can deploy. So if that is in fact the case, what is the urgency to bring so many ships to market?
I think I saw something say something recently in Discord that talked about the current need within different communities to have information more and more and more and more, and they're never happy when there's like a 5-month pause. And I think we've probably fell into that trap with Miranda's to some degree, right? Where if there's an absence of info, you think the project's falling apart. So I wonder how much it is just dripping momentum into the community. I mean, I don't think they need it for funding, but I think they had committed to getting the rest of the ships out. So it seems like this is a part of the pipeline. In general.
I think
go ahead, Ray.
If at the end of the year the goal is to have at least 500,000 members, but I think it's going to be great, and why they're doing it is so there's a broad spectrum of amount of prices and ships available for everyone who within the year is going to come into the space, and then also Star Atlas. So there'll be plentiful options for people, different price ranges for those who could and couldn't afford a particular ship, for them to get in and then start compounding, and then maybe getting to that ship they want.
Yeah. But I would think that they would have to balance that with the idea that once ships go to market at the MSRP or the VWAP price that they have it at now, and not have it to such a degree where right now I can go and buy the last GAU ships for below what they sold for. So you have to find some way to balance that.
Yeah. I think the other thing at least personally, what I'm dealing with, and I don't think I'm alone, is we know that we've got Scream coming up, which is going to have some component of spending Atlas. and we know we've got land coming later this year or into the next year. So I'm in the position where I'm pulling back some of my ship money because I'm waiting for other things.
Right.
Yeah, I agree, and especially when if you look at this room, for example, and then you compare it to a smaller ship of the same manufacturer, this looks like a lot more expensive and fancy, and
The
I would
Ohm?
rather, yeah, I'd rather be staying in an Ohm than one of these tiny little cubicle rooms.
Yeah. Interesting.
But it is the largest transport we have available to us right now. I mean, I still have the pack light, so I thought that was a pretty sizable ship until this one came out. Now it looks like my pack light's pretty small, comparatively speaking.
But we're also in this situation too, where we find ourselves back to the question of what is the utility. So if you have a pack light, we understand that we don't even know how much this will hold versus this particular freighter. And so it would be helpful at some point, like and maybe that's what we will get when we get to Scream, where all of a sudden we have specific ship missions. We might see situations where this mission calls for this particular ship, or maybe it's something along the lines of the mission requires that you go and retrieve X amount of cargo. And you might find yourself in a situation where, okay, well, do I send 4 ohms or do I send one, of this other ship that can accommodate all of them, which means that I'm more fuel efficient. And so there's factors like that may come into play. But right now, it puts us back to this guessing game where we have to sort that out in our heads and our imagination.
Yeah. I think then it falls back on what level of trust we have in the team, right? And so far, I think by and large, we feel pretty trusting of this project. Siggy brings up a great point in chat. We know the market's economically, the world is tumbling. Let's be real about it, and that's impacting crypto, and it's also impacting prices. What are your guys' thoughts on when sentiment might turn around?
I was talking to Fancy Hat before the show, and I showed him a document that I'd been working on where I was just looking at high level at the market as a whole. I was looking at the last 3 months of Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana. I was kind of like dropping down into the space that we see most of the projects that we're in. Most of what we do or what we're involved in happens to be on Solana. Then we branch out to ETH, which is like Alluvium, Gala stuff, things like that. And just kind of looking at what's happened over the past 3 months. And it's really hard with all of the variables. I mean, you think about this. We're all markets correct. This is nothing new that we've seen in crypto. The thing that's different is we have so many variables about community and projects that have people deeply involved in them, whether they're fan base driven, now the GameFi metaverse side of things that enters the space. We have a war going on. We have all of these factors that there's so many variables to juggle. It's hard to say where's the bottom, where do things stabilize, and in that space, it's not even easy to say that all things remain the same. Meaning, like this project has this community that they communicate with in this way, and they're developing things in such a path that the community has confidence, and that's what's making things stable between their governance and their payout token. It's hard to say. I think it's anyone's guess. And for me, at least, I'm just doing my best to zoom out and try and pay attention.
Having been through this market up and down a couple different times now, you see a lot of people who are upset about prices of things are going down. But to me, this is an accumulation phase, right? This is when you should be buying stuff. I think the dynamic that's changed this time versus past cycles is everything's a heck of a lot more expensive in the real world. So some people are having to move some of that free capital into just getting by in life because, for one reason or another, we have a money supply that's gone out overboard.
We can't hear you, Ray.
And it's podcasts like this that keep the morale high in the community of any particular game, because like Banjo was saying, we've been through the ups and downs. I've been in since 2016, early 2017. And if it wasn't for that experience, outside of NFT gaming, anything, just with Bitcoin and Ethereum and even XRP at the time, I wouldn't feel comfortable just getting in. I would dip my toes in, but I wouldn't have gone in as heavy as I would have if I hadn't had that experience. So for anyone coming in now, it might seem like Banjo was saying, this could be either the worst time or the best time, depending on where you are in your relationship with money and all that jazz.
Yeah, and I don't think interest in the projects are waning. I just think people are not. They have to do other things, right? And people who are getting into NFT gaming who may not have been through these ups and downs, they see this as a big loss of capital, and all I see is just a market cycle. And that's why even when I don't, even if the emissions are earning less than what they were 6 months ago or 4 months ago, at the end of the day, that's accumulation. And once the market does turn around, if you're holding that, you're going to benefit from it. But if you freak out and sell everything at a loss, well, then you're not going to be able to take advantage of that upswing.
Right. I mean, if that becomes your pattern where you're selling you're buying the green and selling the red, you're always going to find yourself behind for sure. And then there's other things at play too. And like I said before, there is always going to be market corrections. It's just the nature of things. And so much of markets are driven by news, politics, and emotions. And we find ourselves in a place right now, even where we look at the strain that is happening around the world on fiat currency. And we see things playing out even as a result of current news and wars and Russia looking to ways where like it can explore its crypto as to save itself and have means that it can still stretch its influence. And then you have, other governments saying, hey, we want to control what they're doing potentially and figure out the way we can sanction things through crypto. And that is just kind of like governments' death throes of fiat currency, to where they're just looking for ways that they can exercise additional controls. The thing I always ask my friends is like, can you imagine a future 10, 15 years from now where we see more paper? No, it's not going to happen. Fiat is on its way out. And so while this is a market correction and pullback, all of the fundamentals and things that set crypto up for success and the things that it solves for, blockchain solves for, I mean, hopefully I look forward to a voting system in the future that's on chain and taxes and government spending that's on chain so that anyone can go and see, look, here's what our money went towards. That's a future that I think serves everyone. And as we start to near that, that only supports from the top down all things that crypto are doing, including gaming and GameFi and Metaverse and all the things we're involved in.
Well, and there's really not a safe asset right now, with the exception of one, which is got a lot of gold and silver bugs happy. Precious metals is doing pretty well right now. So for all you people out there who are stacking, good on you. You have an asset that's appreciating versus quite literally everything else going south. These are the times where I wish I stacked more, for sure. All right, Fancy, what you got, man?
So there was more stuff that I didn't cover last week because of all like the risk zone documents. But all of these pictures I think are really cool. They're intended for the Unreal Engine 5 showroom, and it's starting to come together. Really wish we could get inside of it.
What do you think the hands? What are they trying to model there? What do you think?
Just a statue, perhaps, that they can put in like the main hall.
I don't know. I would say that's not. I would say it's an animated statue. I think it's going to be this thing where you can come in and see an art piece where a hand is juggling a ball or balancing it, because I think they're trying to show us motion.
Yeah, I think that's what it exactly is. When you're going to go up to any frame or any ship, these are the hand gestures that might take place for you to. Okay. But it could possibly be a statue too. You never know. They look.
Yeah, and to me, this looks sort of like an elevator, and there's another view of it here. So it might be multiple levels to this. There'll be an outside area. You can see the foliage, and this specifically says Pierce here. We've seen like the Visas section, or at least like the banners for that. So perhaps there could be like a wing for each manufacturer, which I think is quite cool.
Here's a consideration with these images here, and I don't know if Star Atlas has thought of this, and if you guys haven't, hey, dev team, hint, 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 Easter eggs, man. Plant stuff all around there for people to find and discover, full on make it, or you go up a screen, but you forget a particular way that, you get something cool that shows up.
Yeah. Tied to lore or, even maybe tied to a reward.
Yeah.
I know Gala did that kind of with Mirandus when they did their play test, right? They did some sort of puzzle that the community figured out. And I think those are great events to build momentum and morale. And it doesn't require, it probably requires some development time, but it doesn't require a lot of spend on the community winner, right?
Yeah, it was $1 million Gala, I believe, which
that was big, yeah.
Right now is what that would be 210,000.
That's nice.
This
Shout out Family Man, I believe is who got that, right?
Yeah, to that end, I'm surprised they let go of that much of the money that they steal from everybody. Sorry, Fancy, go ahead.
Yeah, this is like the landing pad, it looks like. Just another little insight into what they're building in Unreal Engine 5.
What stands out to me here more than anything else here is the lawn, the grass, the organic pattern of it, where it's not just this lush grass. You have some dead spots. It literally looks like organic grass growth, which is pretty cool. And
I wonder to what degree that moves, right, with the wind. I imagine based on some of the Unreal Engine 5 stuff we've seen, there's probably movement that we're not capturing these pictures.
Yeah. Aside from that, I think it would be pretty cool if there was like a mini race where it's like everyone can gather, and then there would be like a certain checkpoints that you'd have to reach to complete, like something very simple where everyone's on foot and they just have to run around, and a little obstacle course. I don't know how much work that would take, but
I've played some absolutely infuriating obstacle courses in like Destiny jumping games, and it's like, this sucks. I suck at jumping from platform to platform, so I'm going to miss like a bunch of content because of it. So hopefully they don't make it too hard.
So that's what Star Atlas was up to this week. If you guys want to ask questions, we could talk a bit about that. We do have more to talk on the other games as well.
Was there anything that stood out from Foundation Room that you guys saw over the past week that you found compelling?
The pushback against no roadmap was quite interesting, and I do think it was quite right, to be honest. It's important to keep the community updated, even if they are working away 24/7 in unless they show stuff on the outside. They have a lot of people they could make unhappy.
Are there any rough guesstimates now? Honestly, I have not been on top of Foundation Room in recent times. So does anyone have a best guesstimate now of the two big things that are on the horizon, Scream and the DAO? Is there any has there been a big pushback? Is there anticipation for that will potentially drop in March? Where do we stand with those two things?
Well,
I haven't heard anything specific.
Last thing we heard is the audit is in progress, so that might be one of the reasons why there isn't an update. They don't want to repeat the same things over and over because audits are not very quick.
Yeah. I think it kind of goes back to what I shared earlier is people are now expecting some level of weekly update and lots of information. And it feels like the last town hall they gave a ton of alpha. And, if you're expecting that level of information every week, I don't know if you'll ever be satisfied. But I do think, to Jesse's point, I think that they had mentioned February and March as the Polis DAO component. We know they're working on some issues there. But you think we'd hear more updates. It seems like they're prioritizing Scream over the Polis DAO now. And honestly, I'm okay with that because it sounds like Scream is going to allow people to have some level of interaction with the game beyond just collecting rewards and refueling.
Yeah.
And for the people who are like button clickers for games, maybe that's going to give them something to do for a little while.
I have a question on the screen right now about will NFT staking continue when ship missions begin, or will one replace the other?
I can
And
take that on.
I believe Chipto answered that last week, and
He did.
you'll have to take it out of the score earning, take it out of ship staking to put it into the ship missions.
So it's understood that the option will remain for those that want to continue to be somewhat passive in their involvement, but still have ships. Will be able to stake them for some return. But for those that want to be more active, and potentially the rewards will match that as well by participating more in the engaging missions. But both are supposed to remain.
And well, Wagner clarified that. So initially, yes, and then over time, staking will phase out and go full time into whatever they're doing with Scream. And he said I'm paraphrasing here, but essentially he said they want the economics of the game to be the generating factor at some point.
I would imagine that once they get to that point, they will probably be able to incorporate a rental system so that you can still remain passive while putting your assets into play.
Mm-hmm.
That would make sense.
Yeah. Well, time will tell. And to be sure, we'll be here talking about it when it does happen, right? So thoughts on Polis price right now? Jesse, you can take this one.
Oh, boy. Yeah, well, for any of us that if we look back let's just go back 3 months to the time of score. Polis was about 750, somewhere right there, and it's about $1.40 right now. So there are plenty of us that still believe in Polis, but we're heavily upside down in it. So it's just one of those things where you just have to ride out the market. And it would be a silly time for you to part with it. It's one of those things where sentiment follows attention. And so because the market's down, it's down, by the way, the same exact amount, 77% in 3 months of what Atlas is. So my thoughts are that the moment that we see a way for you to earn through Polis, through the DAO, the attention shifts. And so as a result, you're going to see it go back up. And probably in a same equivalent to what we see the rest of the market do. Yeah, it's hard to say. And it also depends on what the potential earnings are. So my thoughts on Polis is still, it depends on how far you zoom out. If you're, with all these projects, if you have it right here in your face, you're going to see what's happening right now, and it may not look pleasing. But the reason that we all got involved in this project is we see the long-term vision and have belief in the team that's putting this together. So if you zoom out to the 1 year, 2 year, 5 year, and you think in terms of what Star Atlas can create, and then you are a holder of Polis, you will be very forgiving for what I see happening right now. My thoughts.
I think Ray probably has a pretty good perspective considering how long he's been in Axie. So, Ray, you've seen the ups and downs in Axie before the game finally kicked off. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I've witnessed different projects at the time in 2017, whether they were crypto game related or not, or NFT game related or not. Some of them never followed through and came out on top, and a lot of people will say that Axie Infinity just saw it's a run up for just the year that passed, for why it's seen so much growth with scholarships. But if it wasn't for that, then I would have been probably in a similar situation with Polis. I don't know what's going to be that for Polis that was for Axie Infinity, where there was this mass adoption to like more than 3 million, multiple millions of players that are involved. But there's something that was playable. That's the thing. So there's certain factors that play that are different between the two projects. But overall, if you're just like with NFT art, if you are going to buy any NFT art, buy ones that you would be able to still look at in your wallet if the price just tanked and the floor was rugged from underneath you. So you could feel good about it in some way. But if we're talking but that's the thing, you wouldn't feel this way if it was money that you could afford to lose. No one likes to lose money, period. But there's that, for everyone's different in that sense. But for Axie Infinity, a lot of the appreciation was from the mass adoption of the scholarship. So, I would have still been holding on to it because, like, again, when I started the podcast with you guys today, it was another income stream because they were staking. Staking was talked about and it was implemented soon after the token came out. So yeah, you can't go wrong with staking if you're going to make something, and the project will be around, and the game is being developed out. So once Polis comes out, people would feel a little bit better about holding Polis because you're getting something back instead of having nothing, unless you're doing some liquidity providing and lending it out in some way.
The answer, Vainzilla's question here, no, I don't think the DAO is going to be that event. And the reason that I don't think it's going to be that event is because the thing that will be that event is as is always the event, is one of two factors. Either this insane return that people are seeing, which we see across the board with farming and things like that are short-lived. That's not what the DAO is going to be. I think that the DAO is going to have this gradual appeal, or when there becomes big news that pushes it. So I don't think the DAO itself is going to be the big event. I think we will see a lift. Again, not financial advice, because this is just me and my crystal ball oracle guessing here. But I think that the event of the DAO itself will give it a little push, but it's not going to be the big one.
Yeah, and I think people are expecting the DAO to be similar to ship staking. I don't think the returns are going to be near as high. And I think the true utility of Polis and the DAO will be once the game, matures a little bit. So you can either get in now when there's, again, accumulate at this point, or you can wait until it does go up a little bit, and then you're wishing you bought when it was accumulating, or you could accumulate rather.
Think about this. So imagine we're in a place 3, 4, 5 years from now where Star Atlas has a sizable community. You've got land, you've got activity, you actually have storyline going on because someone just lost a commander ship in deep space, and it makes big news, and people are drawn to the game, and people are setting up shop on a space station, and people have agriculture and things like that going on, and there's factions that are at war. And then all of a sudden, this stuff is paying into the DAO. And now you are one of the holders of that limited supply of Polis. That's when Polis is going to matter.
I agree 100%. Another thing that's been a hot topic since over the last week in Foundation is really the idea of insurance. And I think it's safe to say that they put that out there without having all the answers, and people all of a sudden wanted all the answers. And we know it's probably going to end up as a combination with some Star Atlas work and some third-party work. But you can just tell by the topic alone that there's a lot of people who don't understand how DeFi insurance works, because it's not a typical, actuarial table. It's really done through smart contracts. So if you don't know how DeFi insurance works, and you're going to be doing this process in the future with Star Atlas, it's probably worth reading up on.
Well, I was even confused by it as we were talking about it, and Chipto said a few things. To me, insurance is one of those things where, if I'm going to rent a car, I have to pay for the insurance before I drive the car. It's not like one of those things after I got in an accident. Hey, I need some insurance real quick. And so I'm curious, what that model looks like, because again, is it mission based? Is it just overall based? Does it change based on how many times and how I've used it? It's fuzzy for me. I don't really understand how it would work in this gamified model.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. And I think by nature of this being kind of a first of its kind in the space, I know Star Atlas is going to have to get more involved than they may even want to, because they have to be the ones who work with whomever about how it interacts with the game. But DeFi insurance in general is you taking out almost a loan against yourself is how it works. So it's more of a complicated than, pay my monthly insurance bill and USAA is going to come to my rescue if I lose my ship, Yeah. Fancy, is there anything else with Star Atlas?
No, not for this week. It has been a bit quiet, but Yeah, there was a lot last week.
Okay, well then we'll pivot away from Star Atlas and jump into Mirandus. We have Michael McCarthy has shown back up on the Gala Discord.
We found Waldo.
Mirandus. We found Waldo.
Yeah, we found Waldo.
And I have to be honest, whenever he shows up, my FOMO starts to build back up. He's the one person at Gala who has the ability to suck me back in when he starts talking about his ideas. But at the same time, whenever that type of behavior happens, something goes on sale at Gala. So I'm thinking in a week or so, we're going to see some new NFTs for Mirandus show up. However, there was a lot of good information that he's sharing. We can kind of jump right into it. So here we go. All right. So this is just a collection of some of his.
Let's preface this real quick. So Mirandus Master is the Discord name of Michael McCarthy, who is the head game master guy that is the head developer of Mirandus. For those of you that aren't too familiar with Gala Games and the project, that's kind of the setup. He's the head guy that is brainstorming the ideas and heading all this up. He has some history with Farmville. He has some history with quite a few interesting games in the past. So that's his background for those that don't know. So that's kind of the setup. Sorry about that, Benjo.
Oh, no, that's fine. I think that's great. It's been a while since we've talked about Mirandus, and I know a lot of people aren't familiar with the project. And I guess more to that story is Mirandus is the project that really brought all of us together initially. And we still keep tabs on it, but the information went dry. And we started looking at other projects and fell in love with Star Atlas. But he's now, instead of, doing AMAs and waiting for something more formal, he's been showing up in Discord and just responding to questions. And by his own words, he's more involved that way. He likes it better than getting a list of questions that he has to answer. So we're just going to go through some of the questions that they've gone through. So on the topic of the next play test, we're not going to be doing one this quarter, but they hope to have a Mirandus day of some kind. Looks like we're going to be looking at the end of Q2. And one of the things they've been doing right now is experimenting with the better terrain system. And those of us who have gotten the opportunity to do the play test, it felt pretty good. I mean, you saw that there was some opportunity to do more graphically in the game, but it looks like they're going to be doing some more with, what the world looks like, including grass. And then just before we comment, I'll just finish up the last thought here. And, they're going to release over time zones that we can play. So we're not waiting for the final game. So you'll get some zones, you'll play, and then it will expand, and then it will expand. And they say we're going to see progress in Q2, Q3, and year end. And then they're working on getting more materium to all the exemplars who helped us test. So what are your guys' thoughts?
So as you said, anytime that we see them show up with any progress, and there's times where the announcement section of Mirandus, which is their flagship game, goes for weeks and almost even a month before there's anything in there. And the only time that we have seen, especially McCarthy, show up is a pre-sale event, meaning it's leading up to something. And my question as I see this is that they have demonstrated nothing to give me confidence about anything that they say on their development path is true. During their sale of all of their assets last year, they led everyone to believe that they would have something playable end of year. Why should I believe that anything that they're suggesting here is anything other than bullshit? Because now they're saying you will see progress Q3, Q2, Q3, end of year. You said that last year.
Yeah.
And based on what you're telling me now, everything you told me last year was absolutely bullshit just to support your marketing. Because if you're this far off from having anything to show me, why did you tell me last year there was going to be something to be seen? Which means it was a complete lie.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that at all. And, one of the things that I haven't done in a while, I'm not sure if any of you have, is look at the hiring boards for Gala to see if they've actually hired the positions. And that was kind of Jesse that uncovered that the positions they were hiring for were very clearly meant for Mirandus and very clearly or way earlier in the game than we were led to believe initially. But I think we've now come to terms with that, right? And now we know this is going to be a project that takes a long time. We know that we don't have a lot of trust in the dev team. But I think, well, speaking for myself, this guy sucks me back in because I love talking about this type of MMO. This is what my bread and butter was when I was, younger.
If they had a game right now that came out that delivered what Mirandus promises to deliver, meaning they have a crafting system, they have a magic system, they have a world where we explore and death matters, and you go out into the woods and it's scary at night and it's not a safe place. If they could deliver on all of that, they would have something epic. My resistance and hesitation is that it has been thus far a very successful marketing play on our imagination.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. On the topic of crafting, there was a question about what happens if a minotaur has blood, and somebody said, well, maybe we can drink it and get horns. And he responded and expanded on that idea. And if they, again, this seems very aspirational, but if they can do it, I think it's awesome. So maybe the crafting components, typically in the past, they have limited uses for maybe 1 or 2 recipes, but it was about recipes. But in this case, he's saying, okay, well, maybe you drink it and you get horns, or you can use it in a potion that gives you super strength, or craft arrows that never miss. I think those are the theory crafting ideas that make me like this guy so much. But I think if that's how he's approaching crafting, one, it's going to be super complex, and things are probably going to end up on the cutting room floor. But it will be more than just click, 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 I hope.
Here's the problem for me. McCarthy, I have played games that he has been a part of. I don't know to the extent of which he was a part of the development team, so I don't know what pieces he brought to life. The thing that I don't have confidence in is his ability. I don't think that he understands crafting. I honestly don't. Crafting is a mechanic of economics. I want to hear from someone that they've said, you know what? We brought on, like he did say this. He says, we brought on this guy that does sound and music and stuff. And I'm hearing these things and it is awesome. That's great. Show me who you brought on that is the guy that understands crafting and crafting timers and economics to create a marketplace that is going to be sustainable and make a crafting system something that sucks us in so much that there's going to be the person that just wants to make bread. You show me that guy, and I don't see him yet.
Yeah, and we had there was more comments that I'm posting here today, but one of the comments was about the different activities in the game like farming. And he says they're trying to make it fun, where something like mining should be fun, but also have an element of danger. And I don't disagree with that. If you're going into a cave, I don't know that I've ever played a game where I'm going to mine a resource in a cave and I'm worried about monsters attacking.
Or even if you're just out in the open, if you're out in the wild to get a resource that's rare, chances are it's going to be plentiful because it's harder to get to. So that would make sense. There should be danger involved.
Yeah, I agree. Next up was about, go ahead.
No, yeah, I just wanted to make a point on like the theory crafting of what we've always been doing when we first got together for the Mirandus Gentry, which was what the podcast was named before what it is named now. I kind of exhausted my fuel tank, not completely, but it's almost like if they don't necessarily have the basics and have shared that with us, then the theory crafting is kind of like, I'm not going to say a waste of time. It's always something that I love to do. But it's almost like we need a foundation to theory craft off of. There is somewhat of that that's already been there. But with everything like Jess was saying that they've promised now in this year, what they've already promised last year and didn't come through on, it's almost like, okay, I'm not going to want to do that any more than maybe like 5% of my 100%, because then it's just like, it's just going to suck that those expectations, which there are none or very little of now, based off of what they're saying, who they're hiring for, how the economics aren't even all there. There's no white paper. They don't even take a liking to those things. And across different games that you might have got involved in now in the audience who are watching, like maybe you started off with Gala Games Mirandus and then you got into all these other projects because you were influenced by your environment, by Rome themselves, any one of the ones posted in the channel for comments, for projects in our Discord. and you kind of see, and you can compare and contrast projects of what's out there, what they give you, like Star Atlas, for example, and then what I guess is not being provided by Gala Games. So I'm all for theory crafting, but I want it to be, there needs to be some substance or more substance to my personal liking from Gala Games. And when these things come out, sure, I always get revved up and I'm ready to go. But it's kind of what has already been shared or talked about as far as promises on the development side. And then when it comes to the economics of it, I see Gala Games as able to bring in anyone like a Snoop Dogg because there's potential for them to make money. Of course, anyone's going to be like, yeah, I'm down, just as long as you make the money for me, right? Or you could use my name and reputation. But to get someone who's willing to get on the ground level with you, knowing that they're going to create it from scratch, because I can look, if we knew that there was a economy and foundation through a white paper, then I'll be okay. There's some outline, blueprint, or template, but we literally have nothing. So whoever they're going to hire to do that, do they have nothing as well? Those economists, do they have anything to work on or build off on top of? That's my question. Where it's just like that's why it might be so difficult to get anyone or any information out, because they don't have anyone willing to go the length from zero. So hopefully you heard me.
Yeah, is Ray? Am I the only one that's hearing Ray like T-Pain right now?
Yeah, he's totally auto-tuning.
Okay. Sorry, Ray.
Sing a song, man. Sing a
bugging
song.
Out, man.
So as he's saying that, here's what came to mind for me. I've been a long-time member of the Steam community. And what is most amazing about Steam, and Steam is a massive contributor to the development of games. And here's why. You've got a game project that puts itself out there, and it's even pre-alpha. It's just so early released that it's just trying to get feedback from people. And you get games that get mixed reviews, wicked, super positive reviews, and then, games that are just like, nope, wouldn't want to play this. And the beauty of that is that you have community feedback that helps to drive the progress. And that is going to lead to something that's going to be a better game. And some of the games that are really intricate when it comes to crafting and it comes to strategy and base building and RPG are games that have where the developers have actively communicated with, and in essence have built the game along with the community feedback. And it reminds me of like even some movies. When we think of Lord of the Rings and perhaps the difference between Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, Lord of the Rings, they literally had Peter Jackson was engaging with a blog where people were literally able to say, hey, here's how much hair I think should be on a hobbit's foot. I mean, it literally had so much interaction, which is why it had so much fan base approval, is because they actually played a role in it. With Gala thinking they can build this so much in a bubble where we're going to keep it secret and we're going to give you these little droppers of hints of cool stuff we're doing, like, you are not going to build something cool that way. It's just not going to work. And that's what concerns me most. They are front and center where they have the opportunity to do it, but they are neglecting the community's involvement and feedback. And that is what concerns me most. And I think they could fall flat because they're missing that mark.
Well, 2 points on that, and I don't disagree with what you said. Somebody we know was close to Gala said, there's a problem when somebody places more emphasis on the vision of the designer versus making a game fun, right? There's that piece. But now to I guess not play devil's advocate, but get a different perspective. What you're describing is what McCarthy's doing in Discord now. He's riffing with the community and he's expanding on people's ideas. So if he can continue that, maybe you will get some level of player base helping generate some of the ideas for the game. It's hard to tell. Yeah. These things could come and go. He might be doing this for a week and then we don't see him again for 3 months. Right. It's
been a week. And in the past, he has said how much he wants to be involved in the community. So we'll revisit this and see how long he maintains this, or if there's a sale on the horizon.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, let's go to the next thing he said. He said, on the economy, in fact, it's really hard to work out the economy and get it right What I would love but might not work is that there's two forms of currency in Mirandus, Gala and Materium, but we may have to break out a special Mirandus coin if we can't model it out. And I'm a little disappointed that Materium is turning into the token, right? Where are you at, Jesse?
It makes no sense, and it doesn't follow a thread of anything they've ever said in the past. They talked about magic being this rare thing. Now all of a sudden magic dictates a currency. And then they have Gala, which is supposed to be the main currency, but all games are going to have their in-game currency. And now they're talking about the potential for a third currency within the game world. It makes me lose confidence that they know what the heck they're trying to create.
Yeah, they're almost treating Materium like the Force at this point, right? It
Right,
surrounds
yeah.
you and is everywhere.
Yeah.
Which is going against previous things that they've said. I think the idea of using Gala as an in-game token, I have a positive view on that, in that we're node holders, so that would help us maybe. But at the other end, that doesn't resemble anything we've ever seen in an MMO, right? There's gold, silver, that type of stuff. All right.
I invite you, Michael McCarthy, here to be on the show.
Yeah, we would love it.
The vision that you have and that you have expressed thus far, we would love to see it come to life. I know I would.
Too.
It would be so amazing. It would be revolutionary and groundbreaking. And I think that the way that it will happen faster is if you do some theory crafting with a group like this one.
Yeah, I agree. Moving on. So endgame content, and I think this is no surprise. Epic or ancient level beasts need to be a real pain in the butt to kill. It should take a server-wide story when someone takes, or should be a server-wide story when somebody takes them down. And that's just like old World of Warcraft or EverQuest, right? When those big kills happened, everybody knew about it. It provided the guild or the person who did it a lot of prestige. You'd almost expect that to happen.
The difference here in Mirandus, though, is that based on everything that McCarthy has suggested thus far, is that these beasts would not respawn. That most of these are going to be a one-off.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. You know, and I think that's a great example from the Minotaur blood, right? So if you do kill the Minotaur and get horns, chances are that's going to be just a few people who have that in the game, and all of a sudden their avatars have a horn as a visual, right?
Right.
So I do like that. He also did mention something that's not in here around, some of the facial items like beards. He's like, what if Gandalf beard was only 3 NFTs, and hopefully that's not what they're going to be selling in a week. Well, hopefully that wasn't a leading statement, but and then only 3 people have them. I think that would be neat if they do it, as long as it isn't about making Gala money.
Right.
All right. Moving deeds. So you can only move your deed if you don't have any buildings on it. You'd have to let your building plot leases lapse, or convince the building owner to move, choose not to renew, and then you could pick up the deed. So it looks like, as a person who may be renting out your spaces, you're at the whim of the people you've rented to. You can't just say, I'm gone.
That makes sense. Yeah. If you have a lease, then it should be a situation where you should be able to either buy them out of their lease or negotiate with them. Say, look, we're moving here. Here's why you want to move with me, and you will have this deal when you get there. So that would make sense. That would be kind of a real world activity if you were trying to change locations. Yeah.
And that could get cumbersome for the larger deeds, right? If you've got 20 different people on your deed and you want to put it on OpenSea and sell it, but you have to have everything cleared out, you could be waiting a while. And that may actually lock deeds from being resold easily, at least.
It should be. I mean, at most, I could see moving a homestead, moving an outpost. But if you're moving like a village of the Viscount, it's like, where in history do people move cities and villages? They don't. It's like you build a new one. So that makes sense that it should be difficult. There should be some resistance to moving a land deed.
Yeah, and he was pretty clear that citadels would not move, based on the resources it would take to actually do that.
Yeah.
And that makes sense. I think, to your point, somebody can move a homestead or move even an outpost and build an outpost and decommission it, but you're not going to move a huge farm.
Right.
All right. So from a dynamic world, and I thought this idea was really cool, but I think it's aspirational and it's going to get chopped. So it said if a town is really active and awesome with the community, they might reward them by editing the zone essentially and making paths to the town, which I think is cool.
That makes sense.
And easy to do, easier. But the holy grail is tracking player movement and have the roads appear based on player travel. Now, I think that would be next level if they could do that.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of shifting stuff with towns. Like if you guys will recall that as a part of Rome, when we were still very active, we had Bitbender come over to the Rome Discord and answer some questions there when there was a little bit of heat going on. And one of the things that he was suggesting to us is that towns would be able to scale and grow. I don't know if that's any longer the case, or if he just was kind of like throwing that out there to appease us, or if that was actual talk on the development side. But it would make sense that as a town got bigger and a path was worn, and maybe that's the metric, is like how many people are traveling to that town, that they give it more attention. It would make sense for a developer to do that within a zone, the same way that within Star Atlas, if all of a sudden you have a spaceport that is doing some cool things, and we did talk to Michael about this on the interview, was that, you know what, they may devote some Star Atlas development resources to that spectacle, whatever it is that is drawing attention. So I would hope that Mirandus would do something similar if a town is all of a sudden set up in such a way that it's got enough shops and enough activity, and the tavern's got great stuff going on, that they make, the roads bigger and direct more people there.
Yeah, I would love to see if they did it with more than just the players, and they actually did it with the NPCs as well. So maybe you've got, some wildlife that follows a certain path. And that's how you know where to find the wildlife, is you can actually track, them through the tracks or paths they're building. I don't know how many of you have been out in a field, maybe after it frosts or something, but you can very clearly see what the natural paths are for the animals.
Right.
You brought up a point there that kind of segues into the next section about deeds, right? And growing your town, I don't think we're going to see plot sizes grow. I think that's now been signed and delivered, right?
Right.
Nor are you going to see deeds grow, but I would argue that docks are a type of deed, which means that they grew them.
Right.
But this question came up because of the economics, and what if you don't have enough, wheat fields to support the economy? And basically what they said is they can tune the plots to give more resources. So if you are a deed holder, or you have certain assets that generate, food or base foundational staples, it might, in the long run, based on the success of the game, just start producing more and more for you, which I think is a good compromise.
Here's a consideration. Why do I need a deed to grow wheat? If I have wheat seeds, I should be able to grow them anywhere, but the mechanic should be that I also have to protect them. I have to protect them from wildlife. I have to protect them from thieves. And so it may be more difficult to protect your growing of whatever resource it is to its maturity. But I don't know that you should necessarily limit resource growth to land deeds. That's not something you would see in the real world. So
yeah. That's true. So as I would see it in the game that we tested, you went and you planted some seed, or you harvested some seeds, and then you planted some seeds. So maybe they make certain land plots out in the wild capable of being seeded. And then you have to come back to it and tend it. I think that would add a cool dynamic for sure.
Dude, that was awesome, Ray. You jumped on there for a moment and you had like a palm tree behind you, and it looked like your hair, man. That was a cool shot.
Well, and he keeps coming on, and I keep thinking he took his shirt off and he's sitting in like a hammock or something, just rubbing it in.
Right? Pina colada.
All right. So there was also some questions around zones and how to fit the people into one area.
There he
And
is.
There he is with the shirt on.
Yeah, so I'm in and out because of the connection, but I hear everything.
Nice hair, man.
There you go.
Cut the palm tree.
Your bun grew.
Yeah.
So on a world scale, and what if 1 million players wanted to play? They're still trying to target one world, but he's very clear you can't fit 1 million people into a world. So how do they get around that? And they're probably going to lock the total size or the total number of people within a zone, something like a 0.5 kilometer square.
Right.
And I don't think I have it here, but he also said that I lost my train of thought. We'll just move on to the next piece. So he said citadels should be shining stars of an island, or they're calling them islands. So they're not zones, they're islands, which is a collection of zones. And they can be connected by bridges and require boat travel. I think that's pretty similar to how we've seen other MMOs play the zone game. I don't think you can do open world with something like this because there's so much going on behind what you see, from animals moving to things growing to skies moving, that type of stuff.
Do you remember back when it was like the early phase, and he's like, yeah, it'll be really cool if the supply of wolves is influenced by the actual food available, the number of rabbits there are. And if you kill all the rabbits, there's not going to be any wolves. But or if there's too many rabbits, then the wolf supply will grow out of control. I think now the realistic side of all the stuff we have to do for an economy is falling on them, and now we have to produce a game, and we don't hear about those kind of mechanics anymore. They're just trying to figure out how do we deliver this thing.
I have a feeling we're going to see I don't want to say minimum viable product, but we're going to see a little bit less than what we all hope it will be, and maybe that's okay. Time will tell. And then we have somebody asked about sneaking, and I thought this was worth sharing because I think it's a different approach than you see in other games. So there's not really a sneak button. If you crouch and you have a sneak skill, that will reduce the circumference around you where people can see you. And I think that's pretty good. And
that's kind of been implemented in games. It's like they're interchangeable. It's like if you sneak, you crouch, and if you crouch, you sneak. So there's some games that have absolutely already implemented that. So you are less visible and less detectable when all of a sudden you go from standing tall to your crouch down. There's actually been quite a few games that have implemented that.
Yeah, I imagine probably Assassin's Creed is probably something like that, right? And he went through kind of this Q&A and referenced exemplars a few times. And I think, he keeps circling back to exemplars are going to be very powerful in whatever their specific thing is. And that got on the topic of exemplars versus, basic characters. And he let everyone know that right now, I think the mindset is exemplars are it. There's not a basic character right now. And if people who don't have an exemplar want to play, they can rent them from the player, which as a passive earner, that sounds great. But that makes me wonder about those charity events that they were going to be doing, right?
So you're saying that in the words of Bitbender way back when, where an exemplar is very, very, very rare, to now they're the only playable character.
But they're rare and Miranda's, man. Come on. Yeah. So I guess we're seeing a lot of the iterative stuff, the ideas that could be done and they had to go a different route. I'm still waiting for my Materium, though. I'd like to see what's come of that. I see you loading some stuff up on your screen, Jesse. Is that something you want to share?
Oh, I was just curious myself as to what the current amount of exemplars and stuff were left. That's all I was looking at.
I think they said just recently they're all sold out. Everything is secondary market. Are you seeing anything for sale still?
Miranda's, what do we got here? If we go down to availability, well, the lanterns, of course, which have not been sold out. I'll pop this up here just so you can.
All right, I'll back
see
this up.
there.
There we go.
Just real quick. It's just so they basically show that there is 8 of these ships left, 8 of these, some cogs, some carracks, some caravels, 1, and then of course some of these non-deeds that are ports and such. And then there's still some exemplars. There's quite a few dwarfs left, so there's 103 there, 142, 34. So you can still, there's 182 of the weavers, 94 of the cartographers. There's still some left.
I wonder if they're cheaper.
We're going to be able to earn Materium in the playtest in the second quarter of the year, I think.
Yeah, I think that was the implication. There's going to be more opportunities to earn Materium. I mean, at some point, if they want to test certain things, they have to give us Materium to test it, right?
But here's the thing with Materium thus far. The only value, the only utility that we currently know of for Materium is that if you have 10,000 of them, you can then buy one of these 100 lanterns. Beyond that, we have no idea what Materium does, how it's used, what its utility is. So that's the part that's still tricky. It's like, and for me, I mean, with the amount of, I would imagine if I had to guess, I'm probably in the top 1% of exemplar owners. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious to know how much Materium we'll get too. So I know everyone listening to this, it sounds like I'm throwing a lot of shade on Mirandus and Gala, and I am, only because I'm holding them accountable to the things they've said in the past that I don't forget, that I'm sharing, like, how does that stack up to what we're seeing from them now? I hope they win. I hope this works out. It would be good for me because I still have a lot invested in there. But it's really still unclear, all these different moves. Like the whole Materium thing is actually fairly new. They essentially came out with a server test and said, hey guys, you can earn some Materium. What's Materium? Well, we're not going to tell you that yet, but it's cool. And then now we have, hey, all the Materium you earned, you don't know how much you earn yet because we've delayed that too. But when you get it, you can buy a lantern. Okay, cool. What happens beyond that? On the next server test, you're going to be able to earn more Materium. Cool. What's it do? So we're in this weird place with Materium.
Mm-hmm. Now, on that lantern that you showed us, did it say 10 of 100 left?
Yeah, because that's their model for saying we want to sell 10 to create scarcity. And then after that, we'll be able to revisit how much we think we want to up the price to. That's the Gala game we've seen from the start.
Well, with an asset like Materium that doesn't have a real world price, that's going to be a challenge for them, right? They're going to have to just whatever model they use to increase the prices. And I know I shouldn't say you've caught them playing little games with that stuff in the past, right?
Well, I'll tell you my strategy right now. I'll be completely transparent. The moment Materium becomes on sale, I'm freaking going to sell it at the top of its height, because this is their model. They FOMO people in to buy something for it. They're creating an economy for Materium, but we don't even know what Materium does. And so I'm going to sell whatever Materium I get at the height of what Materium FOMO ends up being. Mm-hmm. And then I'll wait it out to see what my exemplars can earn for Materium in the future. That's my model.
Yeah. I don't think that's inappropriate at all, considering how we've seen some of these projects play out, right?
Yeah.
And I think true to form with Gala, we won't see tokenomics of these tokens as well. Just if you think about Townstar, the economics of Townstar is stupid, frankly. And if they do the same thing with Materium, we can expect to see that go down in price.
Right. Well, I mean, that's also the reason that Townstar in the past 3 months is down like 80% or more. Mm-hmm. So,
it's interesting is they keep putting out more and more projects, and good on them. I mean, I certainly don't want a company to not grow. However, when you keep distancing yourself away from the foundational project and spend more money on bringing influencers in and building projects around them, it sends a weird message, right? That's why I think we don't talk about this project too much.
Well, especially if your first Gala games, you've got one game that is playable, which is Townstar. Then you bring on 10 other games into the fold. and then you decide that you're also gala music, and then you're gala movies, and then, you know, like I said in the previous show, what are you, gala burgers next? So that is also concerning, because we know it's hard, and I can say this as an entrepreneur for the past 20 years, picking one industry and being solid in that industry is a challenge. Being good at any one thing, figuring out value exchange in one place and doing it well, and serving a community that's focused on that is really difficult. And if you find a win there, good on you. To try and do that across 3 different industries and just throw stuff at the wall to see what sticks, that's a challenge. If you take those same 10 games that they have now and you throw them on Steam, I guarantee you not all of them are going to be successful. So there's people now that are buying $1 million assets in these games, and some of those games are going to fail just because that's what the nature of gaming and some games do. So the fact that they're not saying, hey, let's pick a winner and let's see it all the way through, that's alarming and concerning to me.
Yeah. You know, I think, and that kind of goes hand in hand with the folly of the node votes as well, right? So you've got node owners are supposed to be able to vote these projects onto the gala games or not. But they keep saying, well, if you vote no, we're just going to run the game anyway. We're just not going to run it on gala chain, which why the hell do I have a node then? It's really just a gala generator at this point. Ray, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I want to just, for the viewers and also our guild, like, don't get us wrong. When the game actually is playable, we'll be there. We'll have our structures in place as we've had since the beginning of us as a group, and it'll be fun. We're definitely going to be there. It's just that a lot of other guilds in the space don't have anything to work with either. So everyone's in this holding pattern, and they don't necessarily have podcasts, or maybe other than, you know, shout out to Punjab with his farmers guild. There's not much going on in other guilds, and it's a shame because there's so much enthusiasm, which there still will be, you know, as we see with these periods of McCarthy coming out with some information. We're at the edge of our seats, ready to go as gamers, right? As investors, it's a shit show. You know, it's not even an investment. So what are you even talking about? Yeah, so, you know, for those watching, we throw a lot of shade, or we're very critical of the project because of all these other projects we might be involved in that are doing it the right way, as everyone agrees in the community and the team members themselves. So that's my spiel.
I'm gonna rename myself to Shadicus.
So the other thing we have, Fancy's got some pictures for us that were released, right? So this looks like their testing zone for running numbers, which I mean, it's kind of cool. I think you would kind of expect this, cool. But is there anything that we see in here that surprises us? I don't think so.
Well, I mean, the thing go ahead, Fancy.
Yeah, well, we've seen things like this for other games. It's kind of just a basic how do movement work type of, like you can see on the climbing wall at the back, when it's too steep, it's shaded out red, so you can't climb that. That's kind of what it's indicating, just to test out how it works across the game.
I've never seen this actually on one screen, and I think the concept is cool because we've all played mini games, whether they're first person, over the shoulder, third person. But this is cool. I actually just seen this on one screen. To me, it's, I mean, for all the theory crafting we do, you've got fall damage, you've got climb angles, you've got holes, and I don't know about you guys, but I've been in that in early games of, it wasn't World of Warcraft, it was Ultima Online, where you got to wait for a freaking dev, you got to wait for support. Man, I'm stuck in a hole. Doors and entries, track. I'm not sure what track is, but then jump distance and height. So these are, it's cool to see this simply because these are all factors that are involved in gameplay. Yeah, whenever you're moving around an open world.
Yeah. And then we have this paper doll, which is pretty typical of paper dolls we've seen with other games. So I don't know if that anything stands out here with me. I do see the instrument slot, which they did say, or McCarthy recently said, that all music within the game will be generated by musicians. So there is no like background music. If you go into a tavern, there should be a musician based on what he shared.
There kind of should be. I mean, that's a grand vision to eventually get there. But in the very beginning, it will be real. You know what that sounds like? The creating. You remember MySpace? You remember how there was just like sparkles and flashy shit all over the place, and it was like, oh my god, what's happening? And that actually spawned the cool, refreshing look of what Facebook developed, because when you left it to people just to create their own stuff, it was chaotic. So I would hope that you can have either or. If you have a tavern, I have some baseline tavern music that I can pull from, or I can incorporate my own. Couple things that I see that changed on here is that if we look at the original avatars had 5 rings on 5 fingers. Now it looks like they've trimmed that down to 3 rings each. You've also got earring, which could also be earrings that may fall under your helmet. But I like that they're starting to hone it down into something that's tangible rather than this kind of a make-believe of we can do anything and you're going to have like 5 rings on 5 fingers, where it probably just doesn't make as much sense. So at least now we're starting to get a form factor that for those of us that have been old school D&D players, we can say, okay, I can get behind this.
Yeah. And he did reaffirm that all these components should be visual, which I think is great, because I think that will be the thing that differentiates people from one character to another.
Yeah, and it does say Dark Sun Elf on this, so perhaps like humans may have less slots on them. That may be one way they can make elves just better. You can equip more gear, or I'm not sure if it let you equip like all of these slots at the same time. Maybe if you have like a ranged weapon, you won't be able to carry like a 2-handed sword or like a shield as well.
Well, he did say that he gave belts as a reference, and he said, a basic belt might only have 1 quick slot, and a magical belt might have 4, or that a backpack made with, magical thread might hold more items. But as I'm seeing this isn't the contents of your backpack. Pouch slot is what's on the outside. This is on the back of your, this is the contents of your backpack, which they're trying to do from a, how big is the item?
And do you think based on those other tabs, are those smaller bags within your backpack, or those things that sit on your pouches on your belt?
I think those are the pouches on your back. Go back to the last one, Fancy. So if you see it, the backpack has 4 pouch slots there.
There we go. Yeah. Okay.
And then I think those are the container for the pouch slot, if you will. Ray, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I wanted to make a note of, because this is going to be that hard of a game when you're getting in, like Ark, when you're on the beach, you're naked, and you have to really work to get all of these slots equipped with something. You might not have anything equipped for a long while, unless you come to the sanctuary and then you get a sword, a wooden sword, a shield, very basic material or very basic items to equip, and then you're on your own from there. But I think it's going to take some work. So just because we see this doesn't mean, you're going to have anything for some time until you either have a guild that's mass producing things, already having the deeds, and, which Rome has. We have the deeds, we have the associated, buildings to really hit the floor and hit the ground running. But again, so.
Yeah, that's absolutely the case, because even McCarthy has stated that we saw that there's 4 slots on a belt. Not all belts will have those 4 slots. If you have an old raggedy belt, it might not have any pouches, or it might have space for 1 pouch.
Yeah, and when they talk about wear and tear, right? There was a lot of wear and tear talk about the weapons, and then the percentage of. This is an idea that I was thinking of too. I don't know if it was ever talked about. Correct me if I'm wrong. But if you're going to repair a weapon, you can't repair it back to 100%. It would only repair back to 80%. And then the next time you use it to depletion or to repair it again, then it would go down to 50, eventually not able to repair it ever again. And then you need to make a new one or go buy a new one. So there's that effect of like, okay, everything will eventually not be around anymore. And you would have to either work hard enough while it's being degraded to get a new one, or to make enough money to buy one. So I think that would be pretty cool, because if you could just replenish the 100%, then what's the point of anything being an NFT?
Or a service to repair one. And then the other thing I see here is, like, it says 72 pounds max 150. Are they suggesting that the 72 pounds are the things that we're looking at right now, that based on your leather armor, your buckler, or a large shield, all these things? So right now you're almost 50% of your carrying capacity just based on the things you're wearing.
Yeah, so that might be the large shield and like all the weapons in there. I see it says 100 slots, and that's like a 10 by 10 grid. So you could like potentially fit more things in there, like a jigsaw, and get the maximum if it doesn't weigh more than 150 pounds.
Well, I hope this is an orc or a dwarf's backpack. Having humped a rucksack all over the continent with the military, 150-pound bags don't lend well to long distance travel.
Right. Some of you folks that I see some regular names on there. You guys are exceptionally quiet tonight. What are you guys' thoughts on this? Like with a game, and maybe some of you may not necessarily be into Mirandus as a game, but you've played games like it. So when you see something like that, a paper doll where you've got slots and things like that, what makes sense to you? Have you played a game before? I can't think of many where half of your carrying capacity is already taken up by the items that you're wearing. I think it's great. I love that idea. But just curious what you guys think. A lot of quiet folks out there tonight.
Yeah, I think we surprised them by talking about Mirandas.
Right.
Well, we got a question here. What do you think about Materium being listed on an exchange? And right now, that's how the market finds value in the game. And I think that's really going to create some issues for the economics of everything else in the game. So I understand the challenge.
Yeah, I forget who gave the announcement in the Discord for Gala Games, but they postponed giving the Materium that you would have gotten for playing the demo or the alpha, because there's some talks of it being on an exchange or being picked up by an exchange. So to give it out before knowing what it would be, I forget the exchange, but they said they were talking to one.
Here's the reason that it's hard to say what we think about it, at least for me, is that a token's value depends on a number of things. It depends on its utility, its exclusive use, and its supply. And we don't know any of those things yet. We don't know what the actual supply of Materium is going to be. We don't know the different ways that we use it, because the use is also going to help to dictate what the demand will be for the token. The only demand right now that exists out of anything is that you need 10,000 of them to get a lantern. And we don't even know the utility of the lantern. So it's like this stacked question of what is the utility of Materium? If they are going to try and make Materium the in-game currency token, which I don't think they should. I really don't. I think that, and McCarthy stressed this a number of times, that he likes the idea of copper, gold, copper, silver, gold, and platinum, the traditional model for how you have a currency in game. I like that too. I even like that he referenced Name of the Wind and Copper Jots. Great book if you've never read that. Great series, by the way, amazing series. But I think that is the question. The factor is like, how will it be used in the game world? Because put it this way, I have no desire to go out and stack up on Materium until I know that answer, or those answers.
Yeah, for the record, the lantern would just never go out. So I think that's its most basic. I don't know if you would be able to use it in any other way, but we know at least that much, where anyone else having a torch or another lantern that wasn't one of these 100s, they would go out and you would have to refuel it. So if there's only 100, there goes that ultimate awesome rarity that they always talk about for all their NFTs. But yeah, but I agree with you.
So let's presuppose that right now Materium's $1 a piece. Is it worth $10,000 to you to get this lantern that never goes out?
Nope.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the downside of selling something so early in Materium, right? Because no one wants to buy a super expensive lantern that's really going to be nothing a year after the game comes out.
Well, so if we knew what Materium and how often and what you would need to do to acquire it, then you can give yourself some time frame on your return for buying it. And then, but if we don't even know when the game is going to come out, and then we don't even know the price, there's so many unknowns where yeah, I agree that it wouldn't be worth it right now. As far as rarity, yeah, it's going to be the most rarest item in the whole Mirandus ecosystem so far, because there's only 100 of them. But other than that, I don't know.
If folks that listen and hear me say some of the things I say, if you're curious about why it may seem like I'm throwing shade, it's because I picture in my head the conversation that would be taking place if I was on that team that is making these decisions. And I'm saying things like, okay, this lantern, 10,000 Materium. It almost feels like the conversation is more about how much money we can make and not actually what kind of game we're creating. All of the things that I've seen that have led up to this lead to a conversation of more greed than it does game mechanics. That's how it feels for me. I'm not speaking for anyone but myself. And if I was a part of the conversation, that is what I'm hearing in my head. That's why I get so frustrated with this project, because I think they are the front runners for what could create an amazing MMORPG with crafting and all the things that, as Banjo said early on, brought all of us together here. But when I think about the conversations that must have led up to the decisions that are being made about currency and about NFT prices, and hey, here's some ports after we said there would never be more than 1,625 NFT land deeds, but yet here's some. I can't get beyond the greed conversations about how much money we can make.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that, and I think that's been proven over and over within Gala that's kind of the model that they're following. Under the auspices that they're creating a broad ecosystem, which, considering some of the games that are being voted in, and I say that loosely, that the ecosystem is not super robust. There's some trash games that are coming in or appear to be trash, and then there's some that look fun. But I don't know where the economics is who's benefiting. Is Gala benefiting, or are they helping these up and coming games and they're benefiting and selling their soul to a devil or something like that?
Right. Yes, those are water deeds.
Yes.
Clarification.
Yes. But they did say that there won't be they'll be more limited. Like, in order to dock your boat, obviously you need a dock, and maybe there'll be some storage, but they didn't give the implication that they'll have spaces for buildings. All right. Well, I think that covers Miranda's. Is there anything that we're missing, Fancy?
No, that was it, I think.
All right. Well, maybe in 3 months we'll talk about it again. What you got for us, Fancy?
Jesse, do you want to go on with Pegaxi?
Sure. Yeah. So I guess about a month ago, I basically said, hey, guys, I'm getting involved in Pegaxi. In fact, it was right around the beginning of February. And I said that I'm more than willing to just be completely transparent and show what I've done and where I stand and with all that. And I don't really have a presentation or anything planned for it, but I just kind of want to show you some of what I'm doing, some of what the tools are, and to answer any and all questions that come up. So if you guys have any questions about it, feel free to ask away, and I'm happy to answer. And that, obviously goes for all of you that are here hosting the show together with me. So Pegaxi, what is Pegaxi? By the name itself, you can tell that it's a spin on Axie, right? I mean, it is. And so the idea, and this, by the way, I am no authority on this game. None at all. There's a Discord. If you have questions, you can go and find this out. This is just what I'm sharing with you is the limited amount of information I have from how I have explored it. And I have by no means done such a deep dive where I know every aspect of the game. I simply don't. What I was looking for is I was looking for something else that I could provide to my scholars, where my scholars were making next to nothing in Axie. And that's not to say that all that is a reflection of for Axie is the fact that Axie is transitioning to a place in a down market where my scholars really can't make any money. That's honestly what it gets to. And part of that is because when I did get involved in Axie and I chose a breeding path, I was doing double aquas and one plant. My Axie that I was using, or my Axie team, got nerfed a bit. And so what am I going to do? I'm going to sell them off complete at a loss and then try and figure out a new way to rebuild. I'm not that involved in Axie to want to do that. So I think I found myself in a place that a lot of other people were. So Pega Axie is a game that came around. It's horse racing that looked at some of what Axie was doing and decided, hey, you know what? I'm going to, I'm saying I, as the Pega Axie identity. They do have a white paper there where they can, you can go through kind of what's happening. But what they did is they said, we want to take that model and we want to figure out ways that we can improve upon it. And sometimes it's easier to improve upon something when you're starting from scratch than it is to pivot a cruise ship, which is kind of where Axie finds itself now. I think Axie will probably, they have the resources to do amazing things, but what Peg Axie has done, if you go through their everything from the way that they breed to the way that you rent, it is revolutionary step beyond what my experience was, my personal experience was with Axie. They have it set so that there's 4 different horse types. You have Zons, Kleins, Campana, and Haas. For the longest time, Haas was the one that you wanted simply because Haas was the one that was able to breed faster and race sooner. Now they've nerfed some of that recently and they did a flip-flop. So the Haas doesn't have the same ability it did have. They also started with a 2D model and they switched to a 3D model. And I want to show you just real quick here a video that kind of they use to kind of showcase the introduction of their 3D model. All right, so let me remove that from the stream. Go back to us. Now, I want to state clearly, this is not in any way, shape, or form a sponsored spot. This is not even me endorsing Peg Axie. This is just straight up me saying, hey, I was curious about what they were doing, and I looked into what they're doing. So that's about the size of it. And again, I am looking to see if any questions come up as I go through this. If any of you guys that are watching this have questions, I'm happy to answer. So Peg Axie itself, this is their marketplace. They have, let me pull this back up. You have the ability to rent. You have the ability to buy Peg Axies in the marketplace. You can race any Peg Axies you own, as you just saw there, that kind of a screenshot. You can breed them, and then you can go to a section that has your assets. And right now I'm looking at my assets. I have 30 Peg Axie. Okay. What does a Peg Axie cost now? A Peg Axie, and by the way, the number one tool associated with this project is apollo.pegaxie.io. And this is where I can go to my personal dashboard. And you can see here that on the 4th of last month, I had no earnings at all. And so the first day that I engaged in anything was the 5th. And at that time, I had probably about, I could tell you exactly, on the 4th, I bought 2. So I bought CNC 329 and I bought Jaden Frenecki on the 4th. And so these were the 2 that I bought to breed. I bought 1 female and 1 male. And then I bred. And then I also did again on the 7th and the 9th and the 13th. So this is the breeding, the history of my purchases. I only purchased 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I purchased 8. And then the rest of the 30 that I own, and I sold 1. The rest of the 30 that I own were bred by me. And it just worked out that eventually I had enough equivalent of males and females to do that. But again, getting back to this main tool, starting back on the 5th, you can see that there's been a scale as I breed that basically now, if I look over the past week, I essentially bring in about 10,000 VIS a day. Like most projects right now, VIS is freaking tanking to the ground. So my earnings in this space right now, 1 cent, what is that? That's about $100 a day for 30 Pegaxi down even just within the day. So like all projects, it's getting hit hard. What else can I show you about this? So for me on a daily basis, from a renting standpoint, this is significant. So one of the things I liked about it in Axie, I had to do payouts every 14 days. With this here, and I actually pulled one from one of my renters. Let me go here and filter by no service. So I got one. If I want to rent to someone, all the person has to do is they have to send me their wallet address, and I come over here and I can do a public rental, or I can go direct. And if I go direct, I just literally drop their wallet in and I set it where I want to put it. And I start off at 15%, but I figured what the market will bear is actually 5%. And the reason that I'm also there is that you can rent 3 pegs to a scholar. So essentially they get to play 3 of them. And right now there really is no strategy. They're just doing a lot of clicking. So you literally just drop their wallet address in, approve it, direct rent, and away you go. And you set it and forget it. You don't have to do anything anymore. I don't have to worry about a payday. It's Pegaxi automatically does the split. So at any given time, this is the interface I mostly use just to keep track of what's going on for me. These are all the names of my pegs. This is the gender. This is the energy amount. And in a given day, you can have up to 25 energy. And by the way, I tell my scholars, if you guys have over 20 energy, I will probably pull your Pega, because once it gets to 25, you're wasting money, because that means that it can't collect any more energy. This tells me how many times they bred, their bloodline. I only have Haas as a bloodline. When they're ready to breed, when they're ready to race, and the current status, which right now I'm renting all of them with the exception of one that's resting, and he's only resting because I pulled him to show you this screen for what it looks like to rent them out. You can easily transfer them, sell them, rent them, or rent them out to breed, which is another interesting thing. You can literally, if you didn't have any pegs but you wanted to breed them, you could literally rent 2 to breed them to make your own peg. You come into assets. Let me go back here. You can literally see all of your Pega. You can filter them by no service. How many you have renting, how many are racing if you're racing them yourself, how many you have in the marketplace, or how many are currently in breeding. So they just give you all the different ways to sort it. I've only made one claim so far for the existing 180,000 VIS that I have. 65,000 is what I have that's claimable in another 8 days. One of the ways that they kind of throttle to be able to control the value of VIS is you can only claim once every 14 days, but you don't have to claim it at that 14-day mark. You can let it ride. So a couple questions coming up here. Well, the prices have come down a lot. The prices have come down a lot, in fact. So the places that I normally look at all of that is I come over here to the overview. And what this overview is telling me here is that over the span of, and let me go over all time. And this just kind of shows you going all the way back to November, how many Pegas have been born, and how there was like a big stack going all the way up to March, and then it dropped down. And now it's somewhere in the neighborhood of about 7,300 a day that are being bred or born from breeding. Sales volume has gone down, and it's not the sales volume itself as a number of sales, because you can see here's the numbers sold. It's more in line with the fact that it's down to 1 cent, which is what's obviously impacting the sales volume. The mint to burn ratio is kind of something that they have an interesting dynamic over being able to control. And let me actually go to a smaller number so you can see these here. So Right now we're sitting about 75%, and this continues to drop. And they're really trying to implement some things to control this. And what I find interesting about this project, and the reason that it caught my attention, is that I also wanted to understand what they themselves could learn. Hold on a second here. There we go. I'm in the center of Amsterdam, so that's why you hear a siren going by. VIS burn 75%. This is, they've been trying to figure out ways to pull certain switches to be able to adjust the number of burn to number of mints, because when you have a project where the number of mint just runs away, that's when you have a project that's in free fall. So to answer your question here, and then also this one here was, what does a Pega cost? If you go to apollo.pegaxi.io, or you can go to the marketplace itself and look here, but the simplest place to go is the one that I showed you here. As we scroll to the bottom, we can see that right now the floor on any Pega is 101. If we look at the floor on a zero breed, if you're familiar with Axie, the floor is 165 on a zero breed, and that is a Haas. The Haas used to be the most expensive, but since they flip-flopped, they kind of nerfed it and made some changes to it. Now the Zahn seems to be the most desirable one here. So that's kind of what we're looking at. And also you can see here at any given time that 50% or 57% of rented Pegas go in the neighborhood of less than 10%. And then there's about another 20% of them that are going from 10 to 20%. And then all the way at the end, there's a few people that are paying out less than 4% are paying out half. So again, any questions as I'm going through this, just kind of sharing with you here. Here's what, and getting back to the thing that intrigues me most about this, and I'm not pimping this project at all. I just was curious about it. I got involved in it myself. When I got involved in this project, my ROI date was somewhere in their neighborhood of 20 to 25 days, maybe 30 days. Now with the price of VIS having somewhat tanked as to what it is and has been dropping pretty steady, I pretty much 10x that. So it ends up being about 200 days now. So we don't know. Is there a floor? Is there a bottom? The thing that appeals to me about this project, the reason I'm like, what should I bail out? No, this isn't even a mobile native application yet. So that in and of itself is pretty amazing that they've been able to do this without it actually being a mobile native app. And the other thing that appeals to me about the project is that the people behind it, there's a number of things they do. In their Discord, you can get your question answered in like 15 seconds. They have a massive army of people that will answer your questions. They even have a bunch of people that will answer your questions from their website, which means they're not hiding from anything. And they really have paid attention to the industry as a whole. And part of me just wants to support a project that is literally looking at the lay of the land, is saying, okay, what can we learn from this? And how can we implement some things to adjust? And they continue to do that. So much of their budget, in fact, goes to hiring analysts and economists and people that are saying, look, based on what we know so far, what do we do from here? And they keep doing that. One other thing I'll share about it is that if we look at any one of these, let me pull up just one of my Pegas here. They have this thing here that is not in play at all right now. In fact, when you have a scholar is just really just clicking. They click a race, and the race is random number generator, right? RNG. Right now, they're in the process of making it so that these things matter. If we look at this particular Pega here, and another way to actually look at it is, let me go over here. When I go to all of my Pegas, I can go to this first one, and I can see that it has a win rate of 29%. By the way, the average win rate is about 22, 24%. I have some that go all the way up to 35. Raw Omega, you're asking, so what I recommend breeding 2 Zons if I get into it now? Of course, not financial advice. No, this is hardcore financial advice. No. So, it's one of those things where right now the key indicator, you don't even have to ask me. If you come over here to the overview, you can see that right now the favored Pega is the Zon. If we drop this all the way down to 0, the favored Pega is still the Zon. And the reason it's the favored one is that the gangster Pega for a while was the Haas, but they flip-flopped some of the features between these two that made it so this one got nerfed, and now the Zon is most desirable. So while somebody might say, yeah, the Zon, as with all games, this too could get nerfed, and in a 6 weeks time or month's time, you might be like, well, that didn't work out for me. So it's hard to say, but right now it is clearly the one that is most desirable because the market says so. What is about to flip-flop, and this is actually something that I paid attention to, and I'm glad that I did. When I bought my first Pegas, all of these here that I bought, that you can see that have a purchase date and the rest were bred, every single one of them that I bought, I made sure that when I bought them, I literally went through and searched the marketplace, and I didn't want to buy anything that didn't have a collective stat base over 30. So this one right now has got 1 for speed, 8 for strength, so that's 9, 13 if we add lightning, 16 if we add wind, 20 now if we add water, 24 total. So this is one that I bred, but if I had bought it, I wouldn't have bought this one because I knew at some point these stats would come into play, and they're about to come into play. And the reason that I decided to do this is because in Axie, I didn't pay so much attention to stats, and I went with a model that I thought would work, which was my double aqua in a plant. And so I was trying to be a little bit more forward thinking as to the Pegas that I got. And so I have a bunch of Pegas that actually have, let me see if I can find one that I did buy. I bought this one. So if we look at this one, it's got 9 speed, 0 strength, 3 lightning, 6 wind, 9 water, and 8 fire. So it's got some high stats, and that's why I bought it. So it will actually come into play once they change the mechanics to being something that is more player strategy based rather than just click, which it is now. However, there are some underlying things that are happening, mechanics that we just don't know about, that make it so that a particular Pega has a higher win rate. This one has 28. Not all of them do that on average. Again, if I come over here and I look at my Pegas, I can see that, I can tell you, I have one in particular. Where's Pega Sutra? Right here. This one, 31% win rate, so it's in the 30s. I have about 3 or 4 that are consistently in the 30s. So they earn more than my others, but I don't know what the underlying mechanics are. But once this changes to where those stats matter, a lot of this will go away. So just something to consider there. Now, across the board, if I do the math and I look at what I earn on average, I earn about 340 VIS per Pega per day. That's where I'm at right now. And that seems to be consistent. And my win rate across all my Pegas, 25.5%. And these are my total races and my total wins for gold, silver, and bronze. Now, one of the interesting things that I did see, and by the way, let me, some of these questions might tie into it. What is Klein's most expensive then? Well, let's go back and find out. We come over.
The Klin was more expensive on the diagram you showed.
144? Yeah, a good question. I'm not quite sure. Oh, 245 it is. You're right. So let's see if we can tell if the white paper's been updated as to why. So basically what this is showing right here is that you have your parent breeding cooldown, which is like if you breed 2 Pegas, a Haas, they can race again. They can breed again. So they're breeding, in 24 hours. They can race again in 4 days. The parent race cooldown, parent breed cooldown. Yeah, parent race cooldown. So if you breed them, they can race again in 4 days. The baby breed cooldown. If a baby's made, it still takes 4 days for them. So I'm not sure why the Klein right now, because the Klein still has a 3-day cooldown for the parents. to breed again. They have the baby has 2 days before it can race. The parent race cooldown before the parents can race. They can breed in 3 days again. They can race again in 4 days. And then the baby breed cooldown, when a baby can breed for the first time, is also 4 days. So I don't know. I don't have an answer for you as why Klein. There's probably something in the forums that people have heard about futures potentially. Other than that, I don't necessarily see it, because right now you still have 24, 96, 96, 96. The baby race cooldown is the lowest for the Zon, but it's still 4 days for every other aspect of them. So I don't have an answer for you. Will there be a mechanic to upgrade the stats later? Yeah, they're already working on that. In fact, they're also going to have things like food and things that you can do strategically to give aspects of your Pegas a boost during the race. In fact, there's going to be different stadiums that have different buffs and debuffs. So you might have a particular Pega that is like, fire, 9 fire. So they will do better in particular stadiums than a stadium that might have more of a buff towards water or a debuff for fire. So these are all the different levers that they're looking to pull to adjust things along the way. And I guess that's probably the thing that excites me most, is that they nerf things early on, much earlier on than I've seen, like Axie and other projects. When I first got involved in Axie, which was kind of at the height of what Axie was doing, they got to a place like, why this? You cannot maintain this trajectory. And eventually they made some adjustments and that brought it to a halt. They're not letting that happen, which that in and of itself tells me they want to be around for a while, because they could let it run. They could do things to boost up the price of the token now, but they're doing more things that look and suggest that they want to stabilize the gaming economy. Again, I can't say for sure, but that's just how it appears to me. Any other questions? Again, I just wanted to show you guys kind of like what my experience has been. I have 30 Pegas right now that are bringing in 10,000 VIS a day. That VIS right now is a 1.1 cent, which is down fairly considerably even over the past week. And I've seen it go down and I've seen it go up, kind of like with market. But also I think that they're in the middle of changing some things. And so, again, market sentiment, it's hard to say. But I do like what they're doing. I think they're going to be around for the long term. And they're doing some things that are pretty creative. And they are hiring a lot of people that are folks that focus on game mechanics and economy and are looking at aspects of like, how do we stabilize a coin? This is, to me, this is at the forefront of what games in the space need to be doing, that are kind of like blazing the trail. Not just when you come up with a game that has everyone's appeal or where you can have scholars. They've definitely made version 2.0 of the scholar program. I don't do anything with scholars. I literally, once I have a scholar where I can rent to them, and I do rent to them, once I've done that, they're done. I don't have to do anything. There's no payouts for me. They get their cut immediately at the same time that I get mine. So when they race, it's split between me, the owner of the peg, and them, the person that's racing it. So that to me is an advancement in this whole model of scholarly gameplay. So yeah, again, I didn't need to go on to this for hours, but I did want to just kind of like open the kimono and say, hey, here's what I got going on.
Yeah, the renting system looks really interesting. That would be like ideal for whatever type of game you want, where it's just a little slider on a scale.
Yeah.
In Star Atlas, that would be amazing.
Right? If you had a ship and you could be like, hey, I'd also want like what zones you could go into.
Yeah.
But yeah, you've got a little slider. And then if you didn't want to do that, you could also public rent, but I'm not doing any public renting, because you could also say, you know what, I want to rent this for X number of the governance token a day. Or instead I want to do it for the VIS, but I'm not doing any of that. I'm just doing direct rentals to my scholars. I set a price and then I direct rent and it's done. And then at any time, if I want to breed, I can literally pull it back. So like if I had one that's rented out, like this one here, I can say take back, and in like a minute it's back, and then I can come into breeding, and then now they're available for me to breed, and then I can send it back to that same scholar.
Very interesting.
So you have a question here from Ronald about earning more if you played by yourself. What's the opportunity if you played your own assets?
You totally could. Like if I wanted to go into racing, I've got like, I want to pick a Pega. I only have one right now that I pulled back that's not being rented. And by the way, you do have some of the lag from Polygon. It's been brutal lately. Like literally, I have to like go in to MetaMask and up the amount that to get the transaction to go through. But I could race my own, and like this is the only one that I have right now that is not rented out. So I could totally come in here and race this, and then find a match, and then it goes through a process where it finds that, and then I have to go through MetaMask and such. But can you could, well, I couldn't earn 9 times more because I'm only paying out 5% right now. So I couldn't earn 9 times more. So if let's say in a given race that you're able to earn, I think the average race for me right now is probably like 350 or so. So do I want the whole 350, or am I happy to take 340 and not even think about this while I'm focused on other projects? So no, you couldn't earn that much more because right now what the market will bear. Like if I go to renting, like if I wanted to rent one myself, if I wanted to pay a rental fee, actually I'd have to go to share profit. There are literally only 4 freaking Pegas right now that I could even rent. And the market price for it is 5%. There's one for 18%, but it's usually when you find that and you go to rent it, it's usually this Pega is rented by someone else. So if you see that, that's bogus. It's never there. So right now the market will bear 5% or less, and chances are these are already rented, which is why scholars are really looking for Pegas to rent. If you were looking for a scholar, which I've never had to look for a scholar, all of my scholars were first scholars, and I only pay 5% again because you can rent 3 Pegas to them. So that would be like 3 Axie teams. So 3 Pegas, that means they get 5% for 3 different ones, which ends up the equivalent almost 15% for having one. So it works out. I'm happy they're happy because my thing is like, yeah, you could be a large gaming guild, and they do have them. There's gaming guilds with over 1,000 Pegas, and they may pay out more. But my thing is, it's like, this doesn't make any sense to me unless I have a reasonable return on investment. Plus, for someone clicking, the same folks that were struggling to make $5 a day in the Philippines with Axie right now, they can make more than that by just clicking with no strategy involved with Peg Axie. I think it's good for both parties. So that's all I got.
Thank you. That was very informative.
Yeah, I like the way this is a little bit behind the scenes talk here, but I like the way you're interacting with the community and answering the questions in real time. I think we should do that for more projects.
Mm-hmm. And again, I want to reiterate, this is not endorsement of the project at all. Mm-hmm. This was more my curiosity about how 2.0 versions of pioneers in this space are developing. And the only way to really understand it is get my hands dirty.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Fancy, what else do we have today?
Well, that was it, I think, really.
Oh, hey. Well, there's nothing wrong with that. I know that with Ray being on an island somewhere in the Gulf of Mexico, that we probably don't have any major Axie content. Ray, do you have anything for Axie?
Well, there was some things that happened, but I had it all set up on a slide back home on the rig. So I'm going to forego anything Axie related, but great work, Jeff, on the on that overview with Pega. There's a lot of Axie community that went over into investing into Pega, and it's been working well for them. You know, there's all these ups and downs, but the team is diligent in making those changes earlier on than Axie did to have it continuing to be a success in the eyes of a lot of those who were a part of the Axie community. So
I suspect they will all learn from each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, and oh yeah, well, Axie Origins is coming out soon. There's been releases of the eyes, of the certain body parts related to Axies, and you can check out our channel in the Discord of Rome, as well as the official server or the Twitter for any one of these games, and you'll get those up to date, real time almost updates for the games for Pega and or any ones that you're a part of, pretty much. So yeah, look forward to Axie V3, Axie Origins V3. It's coming out by the end of the month, and there's going to be a definite increase in the prices of these tokens if you're just on that level of speculation with token prices. But as a gamer, it's definitely great to see that happening sooner than later. So now there's going to be a whole revamp, and the eyes and ear cards are going to be active on any of your Axies. So yeah, just get ready for it. There's going to be a lot of card craft theorying going on, and the visuals are going to be that much better. So if you haven't been taking part into Axie and you like a Hearthstone Slay the Spire type of card game, it's going to be a faster card battling where you kind of instantly kind of just play your cards, and then right after the opponent would play. So yeah, keep your eye out for that. It's pretty cool.
Awesome. Well, I think that is it, everybody. I think we have a shorter episode today. We'll be on the lookout for all the best in the games that we love for the next week. Really glad to have you all here. We'll be back. I think we'll be back at the same time next week, in respect of daylight savings time and not an hour late, I think. But just we'll put that up ahead of time, and we'll bring more to you in the future. So thank you for coming. Like and subscribe, and we'll talk to you all soon. See you on the other side.
Later, guys.
Atlas Miner, you were born to push the block in search of ore. Now it's time that you are gone, so farewell, Atlas Miner. And farewell, Mud and Oni too. Who's the sector same to you? The pirate bastards ran him through, so farewell, Atlas Miner. Promised you a diamond mine, but I'll be damned, it's hard to find. I hope there's justice for their crimes. And farewell, Atlas Miner. And farewell, friend, don't take it hard. Getting killed ain't all that bad. They'll treat you well in the repair yard. So farewell, Atlas Miner.